In the last section, we added in another team to our kind of engineering organization here. So we've got an engineering team, we've got a testing team, and the engineering team knows exactly who their testing team is. So it has a reference to the testing team object. We then decided that we needed to have the ability to iterate through all the different team members, like all their actual names, on both objects. So we created a team iterator and a testing team iterator. And now we're trying to figure out how do we iterate through all of them in one go through this for of loop down here at the bottom. So in other words, how do we kind of combine these two iterator functions or generators together? So this is a pretty big topic in generators here, so I apologize if it feels like I'm beating the dead horse right now, but I'm going to pull up our team diagram back here just to make sure that it's extremely clear what the problem is. So again, I want to walk through the lead, the manager, the engineer, and then I want to walk down into the testing team and look at the lead and the tester here as well. So I want to kind of delegate from the engineering team iterator to the testing team iterator. I want to like walk down into that second iterator function. That's the crux of the issue here. Whenever I iterate through the engineering teams generator, I also want to iterate through the testing teams as well. So this entire practice of saying, okay, whenever I iterate through this one, I also want to iterate through this one is referred to as generator delegation. It's where we're delegating from the engineering team generator down to the testing team as well. So let's figure out what the syntax for that is. Now this is another one of those topics where I could use words, for all day to try to explain what's going on, but it's a lot easier if we just put some code up on the screen and then kind of look at it and figure out what's going on. So inside of my team iterator, I'm going to add just a little bit of code here. Underneath the team.engineer, I'm going to add in const testing team generator will be the testing team iterator with team.testingTeam. So remember in this case, inside of our team iterator right here, team is the engineering team and testing team is the testing team object. So we just called the second generator, passing in the testing team. And now here's where things get really interesting. This is a second generator which has two yield statements in it, right? We got two separate yield statements that we need to yield over. So to make sure that our for of loop kind of like falls into it and yields or kind of iterates over both the lead and the tester, I'm going to put down yield star testing team generator. And now you'll notice that our output now has Jill, Alex, Dave, Amanda, and Bill. So it looks like the result is working properly, but again, with just about everything else generators that we've covered, why is it working this way? Why does it work? Why are we doing this, right? So this is some pretty insane JavaScript syntax over here, overall. So let's walk through this step by step. The first thing I want you to remember is that when we use generators for iteration, we first create the generator function, which we're calling here an iterator. That's exactly what we're doing right here. That's exactly what we're doing. Now we call the testing team iterator and we pass in the testing team. So this creates our generator. So we've now got our generator in hand and we want to make sure that the for of loop knows that it has a couple of statements or a couple of yield statements of its own that it needs to take into account. So that is exactly where the yield star statement comes into play. Yield star can be read as, hey, I'm currently in a generator, because we are in one. I'm in a generator, but I've got another generator that has a few yield statements that you might care about as well. So here is that other generator. It has a couple of yield statements. You might care about this one as well. You can kind of think of yield star as like a trick door or like a trap door of sorts, kind of like a pit. This is a weird term, but kind of like a trap door. Let's say it's a trap door, which will kind of trick the for of loop into falling through. So once the for of loop falls through this trapdoor right here, it falls into the testing team iterator and it says, oh, well, all right, I got tricked into coming in here, but you know what? As long as I'm in here in this other generator, I might as well iterate through these other values as well. You might as well do it. What the heck? As long as I'm here. So this is generator delegation in practice. We use generator delegation whenever we have multiple generators that sort of make sense to be ran together in some fashion, and that's definitely the case here with our different teams. Like I want to have different iterator functions so I can iterate over the testing team separately, but it's always going to make sense to iterate through both my engineering team and the testing team at the same time. Okay, so one more time, quick review on what we discussed. First, we set up a single object, the engineering team, and then we used a for of loop to iterate through all of its team members. We then decided that we needed to have a separate but linked testing team as well, which had its own iterator. To make sure that iterating through the engineering team also walked through the testing team, we used generator delegation, which is where we used the yield star statement. The yield star statement can be thought of as sort of a trap door, which the for of loop down here at the bottom will accidentally kind of fall into, and then once it's through, it's going to iterate through all the yield statements in there as well. Now maybe all this looks kind of reasonable so far, but man, we've got some really ugly syntax right now. For example, the iterator functions, they're not a part of the engineering team definition. They're very closely related, and maybe it would make sense that the engineering team object should know how to iterate over itself. In addition, when we want to use our for loop down here, we have to first call the team iterator and then pass in the engineering team. And so this kind of team iterator thing that's sitting right here, this isn't super clear why we have to do this at all. So I'm going to say let's continue the next section and let's see if we can't clean up the code that we have here a little bit. Let's see if we can't make the code just a little bit more concise on what's going on. So let's continue the next section and see if we can't tackle that topic.